Hi, I'm Adam Smatar, and you're watching TelliCast. We're here with Jose Lima today, who is the product unit manager for Community Server, and we're going to talk about the Morpheus membership changes for Community Server in CS 2007. So, what is Morpheus, and what's the big deal?
So, the big deal about Morpheus is right now, previous to Community Server 2007, there was a tight integration between the ASP.NET membership system, particularly in the database, with the rest of Community Server. So we were aware that those tables, those stored procedures all existed in the database. One of the big goals about Morpheus was to pull that make that really separated. And so now, ultimately, if you wanted to, you could actually pull those tables, those sprocs, the views out of the CS database, as long as it exists somewhere, or if you have your own membership system, and Community Server will still work. So the way that we did that was, there are a couple big goals with Morpheus, and that was one of them. Another piece was the caching of users. So because once you pull these tables out, if you had a join previously when you were pulling back posts, you could no longer join and get that user information. So as a result, what we had to do was change the way that we access users from posts. So no longer does post.user just pull data from that lookup, but rather it goes into the cache and it finds the user. So one of the big things that we tried to do in there was to make sure that we still maintain some of that data. So there's a tiny bit of duplication, username, for example, and as a result, we can now allow you, if you have your existing membership system, let's say you created your own ASP.NET membership provider, you can now use that one, and you can either use our existing stored procs to extend that, because we do bulk lookups, or you can create your own, and we have a couple interfaces that we've created that if you implement them, CS will work right out of the box.
So what are some of the, what are some of the gotchas? What are some of the things that somebody who wants to customize their membership, or they have an existing membership on their intranet, for example? Well, I guess that's not a good example, because you'd use probably drawing a blank, the LDAP service that we have inside of Community Server, right? So if you have a membership provider in your external application and you want to implement Community Server, what are some of the gotchas you want to be aware of?
Well, it kind of depends on who you want to manage the data. So what we've done, one of the misconceptions that Morpheus is just about membership, but it's really membership, profile, and roles. So all three of those can actually be separate. You could have your membership store one place, your profiles and your roles different places. So Community Server can own that information, or your external system can own that information.
And can they pick one of the three, or is it all or none?
They can really go anywhere they want, okay, right? And so as a result, you have the ability to use, like I said, any one of those pieces from Community Server out of the box install, or another provider that you have. So you could take the simple scenario, which requires just a tiny bit of tweaks, is you've got a couple different communities set up on Community Server 2007, and you want to integrate those with a single membership store, then that's almost enabled out of the box. The only difference is because we don't have all the data in both systems, we have to do a little tweak with some IDs, because in this system you've got user IDs that this system doesn't know anything about, and over here they've got the roles. So the way that if you have users here and roles here, you have to do some kind of work. So there would be just some initial migration. But the way that you can leverage your existing system is that we no longer in Community Server, because we don't assume that the membership part is there, just that the CS user or wrapper is there, is actually if you were to create your own application that does banking, does other kinds of administration, you create just normal ASP.NET membership user stuff. When you log into Community Server, it's going to go to that system, it's going to authenticate you, and if you don't exist in Community Server, it'll just create a user for you that wraps that. So your system is still responsible for the membership data, password, that kind of information, and we're responsible for the CS-related, the touch points into CS. So as a user writes a post, as a user has favorites, as a user rates things, that's all CS-related stuff. But all the membership, password, those things will still live in your store. And so to get it set up, you got to make sure that your web config is all set up properly. So you'll have app names that need to match and sync up. You'll need an extra configure connection string. So for example, if by default Community Server has one connection string because everything hits the local database, but now you have a membership system that lives over in this other database, you'll need a new connection string. You'll want to make sure that the provider's role, membership, and profile, whichever set you want your system to manage, that the connection string is set to that secondary connection string while CS will still maintain its data. Again, any variance in between you can do, so you could keep membership there, roles here, both out there. You'll need to do that sync, and then you'll need to just do the syncing of, you'll need to make sure if they're managing roles, that they have community server base roles that exist. So if there's no system administrator role, you're not going to be able to administer the system. And then if you're managing the roles, you're needing to just have the user ID kind of synced up. So that stuff we're going to be writing up and we'll be putting on the wiki probably within the next week or so, so that folks who want to do that integration, it'll be follow these 2-3 steps and you're up and running.
All right. So one of the things you said is that, and it sounds a lot like, at least the experience is a lot like you had with the custom cookie auth. So when custom cookie auth was there, the CS would look for the cookie, see get the user information, go and attempt to see if they exist. If they don't exist, they create them. So similar kind of process flow.
Correct.
What happens with password elements now, like secure RSS or NNTP? If you have Morpheus in place, if you configure Morpheus to use an external system, so now you don't have passwords in your system, where do we go off and get? I guess do we still go off the same place and check passwords?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So in the end, the abstraction was done high enough and low enough that part doesn't get changed, so we didn't affect the stuff above, and we certainly still allow membership to exist below, but those applications were always hitting the user, and so the CS user will always exist. It just may be that the membership part within that CS user is remote or it's local. It serves kind of as a proxy, so there's no knowledge of where that lives. Nothing was drilling all the way into it, and if it does, it's still doing the proper lookup. So one of the things that we do is when we pull, we do an extra query. So for performance reasons, let's say we're getting a list of posts, you're viewing a thread. We look up the user, or excuse me, when we look up the threads, we find all the authors of those posts, and as a result, we then go look up in bulk. That's one of the ways we've extended the membership providers. We look in bulk the users that would exist, say, on that thread or on that set of posts that you're viewing on the page. And then we go look up the membership information in one big bulk call, and then we merge the two together. So there's a CS lookup, because we own that data, and there's a membership lookup. We could own that data, but we're not sure if we own that data, so those are done separately. The user is put together by bringing the profile, the membership, the roles together with the user, and the rest of the app is none the wiser, doesn't know that this is happening.
Cool. So one of my favorite authentication types is the cookie auth. It's so flexible, so easy. Sounds like this is as flexible and not necessarily as easy, but it's flexible and actually better, because there's a lot of custom stuff that we had to do in past to work with NNTP and to work with other things.
Correct.
To get those passwords.
And there is one, and that is definitely, it's not a gotcha, but it's a misunderstanding sometimes in Morpheus. So single sign-on solutions are separate, because that's what transfers your credentials, across from one app to another. Morpheus, we already have those solutions. So we have custom cookie, we have Windows, Active Directory, and we have Forms Auth, right? Those are the three that we really push out there. And those will still manage a single sign-on. What we're looking at is for external membership stores. So what Morpheus really is designed to do is to say, okay, you've got a membership store here, your app's running this, and now you want a community, you want blogs, you want forums, you want galleries. How do I integrate with that? You would still need the custom cookie or the other things to manage the login, so the authentication flow happens. Okay. But Morpheus will allow you to keep that data there and not have to synchronize it overnight. So we wouldn't have two copies of the data.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, yeah, absolutely. Well, fantastic. So is there anything else you wanted to say about it before I wrap us up? Are there any other gotchas or any other
I think there's just not a lot of understanding around it. So we're really working on a good, solid, knowledge base article, updating the wiki that describes this is how you do it. Here's a couple sample scenarios, and here's some sample files of how you can do it, and then people can tweak it, as they see fit. So
well, fantastic. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you in about a week. The product development manager, product unit manager. I'm going to start over.
All right.